Chapter 1. The Ship. Rommel did the right thing. He was sure of it. He did what was proper and what needed to be done. He was certain, deep within his heart, that it was the most respectable and honorable thing that any good man could do. So if he was certain about doing the right thing, then why did he feel so foolish? Rommel, you oaf! You had the Sapphire in your hands, and you gave it away for wealth. Once Rommel had the reward from the royal court of Italy, he envisioned finding another such stone belonging to another such court, or better yet, belonging to nobody but himself. He consulted shipbuilders whom he thought would be suitable to build a ship of his detailed requirements. He was not necessarily focused on ornate scrollwork or a fancy captain's cabin. He wanted efficiency, practicality, and durability. Lest he forget, he also wanted 20 big cannons on each main deck and 15 upper deck cannons. Likewise, he wanted plenty of skiffs to be stored on the main deck for the crew to be able to go ashore, or escape from something that Rommel had no experience in guessing what that something could be. Better safe than swimming or dead. He thought himself a practical captain, albeit never having been at sea before. As a novice ship's captain, he wanted to be feared as much as revered. Thus, he needed a grand and fierce ship. What he designed should suffice. The fact that he was a captain carpenter did little in the actual ship design, but it did help in making the vessel far more efficient than most ships. Although he intended to purchase a ship of the Dutch flute-style vessel, he eventually went all out and thought of the larger 3-masted vessels, with deep draught and a wide beam, as it would prove most seaworthy. Or so he thought. It could go through any type of sea, any type of storm, and any type of hostile venture from others. His only true reason for such a design was that was the only type of ship he had observed. The problem lay in the fact that Rommel has never even been at sea before. Not the deep and wide seas, at least not the sea that can tear a ship asunder with the wrong captain or crew operating it. To leave a sail up too long or take it down too early can spell disaster for all the men on board, regardless of how many skiffs were on the ship. Apart from those trivial, far-off concerns, he faced an even greater challenge, in his mind at least: what to name the ship. Originally, he thought he would call it the Blue Aphrodisia, after the Sapphire he briefly owned, but he reconsidered after pondering what the name could tell others about the ship's possible content, that being, of course, gold. What he needed was a name to implant fear and dread in other ships, without being a challenge to those who knew how to crew a warship. Rommel thought for months and months on a good name, a proper name, and a powerful name. His mind was blank. The name he thought of when he first dreamed up his venture was the Blue Aphrodisia. He felt it might remind him of his folly in building a ship of wood when he'd held a blue stone of passion. In his opinion, selecting a feminine name for his ship may instill a casual disregard, or perhaps worse, a distinct disregard, for his and his ship's strength. The shipwright whom he eventually contracted to build his ship provided some names, none being suitable for Rommel. Again, the names were too neutral, or almost cowardly sounding. The shipwright, in his professional opinion, thought the names he suggested were all fine names for a ship of this class. He liked the names he provided and thought they were all very suitable. As the months passed and slowly approached the 1-year mark, the ship finally took form, and it became apparent how grand a ship it would truly be. It was actually coming together at a faster pace than Rommel could have imagined. He thought ships of this size took years to build, but when he considered how much he paid for the ship in the first place, he could see why it was coming along. Suddenly, in the middle of his sleep, he woke to a startling thought. His ship was nearly completed, and he had not even started to gather a crew. Early in the morning, Rommel hurried to the shipwright to inquire where he could find a crew. "Captain Rommel," he began, with the formal title due a ship's captain. "If you need a crew, go to the man named Markey. He can assemble a good lot of men, seaworthy and trustworthy as well." "How much will it take for you to hire the crew and stock the ship with provisions, long enough for a long voyage?" "Me?" "Yes. How much will it cost for you to assemble my crew and my provisions?" The shipwright paused and contemplated the question. Sitting behind his great desk, he wrote some notes on a script of paper and considered the question. "Captain, to secure a good crew, not these harbor dogs that most ships have, to provision the ship for, say 6 months at sea, and to have enough to pay the crew—" He paused and considered further. Suddenly he stood up, went to a shelf behind his desk, and looked to a ledger. Finding what he looked for, he returned, dusted off the leather cover, thumbed through the pages, and found the exact page. He read it over and jotted more notes on the script. "Captain Rommel—" He cleared his throat to prepare for his upcoming tally. "To outfit the ship in a good and proper way, befitting a new launch, a new captain, and a new life—" He paused and slightly cleared his throat. "I would estimate you need 17,000 gold pieces. Or should you prefer—" He jotted more notes. 141 gold bars. He stated the amounts and looked up at the new captain in a way which showed he half expected Rommel to balk, recant, or perhaps shout in anger. "Make the provisions and crew and another 200 gold pieces for your consideration." "Why, of course, Captain Rommel. Leave it to me, and you will have the soundest crew ever known." Rommel calmly and casually took a draft of paper from his pocket, borrowed the shipwright's pen, and wrote the amount on the paper for his bank to turn over the required gold. Rommel stood to leave, and before he made it to the door, the shipwright asked, "Captain Rommel, sir, what are you going to call the ship?" "I haven't given it much consideration," he lied, "but I will let you know before you assemble the crew. Oh, and for the first voyage or two, I will need an assistant to, let's say, help me get accustomed to the ship." "Aye, Captain, that is a wise decision. But what do you propose to pay this assistant for a voyage or two?" "If you find a capable and loyal assistant for this short time, I will pay him 2,000 gold pieces, half now and half after we return from the second voyage." When Rommel left the office, the tall and lean shipwright gazed at the now closed door. "Godspeed, Captain, and may all the angels in heaven protect you." Rommel stayed home for several days. He filled his days thinking, planning, and reading. He spent the majority of that time reading the sea charts, the wind routes, and the known coastal hazards. The shipwright was courteous enough to provide Rommel with a complete set of the latest printings of charts and maps for his ship. Rommel had no idea how to control a ship's crew, no concept of what being out in the deep blue sea really meant, no idea why he decided to undertake such a foolish plan. Sell the ship, sell it before I step foot on her decks, sell it before the crew throws me overboard and takes the ship as their own. His thoughts knew better than he did. His thoughts were far-seeing and understood what peril lay ahead. Yet he dismissed those thoughts and sent them to scrub the decks of his mind. 2 weeks later, a solid rap sounded on his door. Rommel answered to find the shipwright, along with 2 other men. One man was older and obviously from the sea, perhaps a captain himself that retired or stopped sailing for some other reason. The second man was younger, leaner, and smaller, with tanned skin, black hair, and black eyes. "Captain Rommel," the shipwright was the first to speak, "I bring you your new assistant and your new navigator." "Please come in, gentlemen," Rommel gestured, "and welcome." The shipwright began to outline the achievements and experience of both the new crew members. Rommel had not known that most of the navigators were Arabs, as they were foremost in navigation by the stars. They were above all the most sought after for navigators. The assistant was named Johann, and was from Sweden, where the Vikings came from. He told of the ships he crewed and the ship he was most recently captain of. Lastly, he told him why he came ashore and was no longer a captain. Captain Johann. Here the shipwright pronounced the name so as not to get it incorrect. Johann, and listened to Rommel repeat it satisfactorily. Captain Johann was the captain of the Restless. A fine ship, Captain Rommel, a fine ship. Captain Johann was along the east coast of Brazil when 4 ships, lesser ships than the Restless, but treacherous ships nonetheless, attacked her. He and his crew utterly destroyed 3 of the ships, but the 4th ship's cannon took out the rudder and the Restless was unable to maneuver. He paused for a breath. The 4th ship filled the Restless with so many holes that it listed to the starboard side and sank. Normally the objective of pirates is to gain treasure, but I think the 4th ship was out for blood. The Swedish man, Captain Johann, sat still in a large, finely crafted wooden chair. He listened to his story being retold, but he was examining the chair more. His fingers traced the lines, the engravings, and the brass inlay. He noticed the lines of the wood grains almost glowed. He silently examined the gentle, elegant curves, and most of all, the comfort of the chair itself. Then, in a smooth, calm, almost rolling voice, he interrupted the narration of his life story and said, "Fine chair, Captain." Looking at the chair still. "Very fine workmanship. My compliments to the craftsman." Softly, Rommel said, "I am the craftsman." The blond-haired Swede looked up in a startled manner, as did the shipwright, and asked as if in disbelief, "You made this chair?" "I." Then Captain Johann turned to the shipwright. "Any man who can craft a chair such as this is a caring and well-thinking man," he stated in his northern accent. "I will sail with him for 10 gold pieces, if he vows he will teach me to build such as this chair." The shipwright was stunned and speechless. His mouth opened and closed like a landlubbered fish wishing and dreaming to be in the water again. Before the shipwright had time to speak, the navigator, an Arab of not more than 30 years, stated, "If Captain Johann will take 10 gold pieces and learn to craft this chair, I will do the same. Captain Rommel, I will sail with you as long as you need, but you teach me to make this chair." "I agree," Rommel said politely. "But tell me clearly, with the shipwright as our witness, you want 10 gold pieces per month, is that correct?" Johann was the only one to speak. "Nay, Captain. You teach me to make this chair, completely and of the same quality. I require 10 gold pieces period, that is all." He continued in his smooth tone, "2 voyages, and 10 gold pieces." The Arab stood still, his hands clasped behind his back, and nodded in agreement, but said nothing. Captain Rommel didn't understand the full reason behind this, and was wary that it might be a clever ploy or trick to gain control of the ship at some point later. "Why?" "Captain Rommel, sir," the Swede said in a storyteller's voice, "anyone can sail a ship. You, for example," he said honestly, without any insult. "Anyone can look at points of light in the night sky. Anyone can learn to do anything aboard ship, from anyone who will teach them. But, Captain, to learn to make this chair, sir," he patted the armrests lightly and almost reverently, "this chair is made by a master of masters. Captain, I have traveled many a country and visited many fine villas of wealthy men, and at times wealthier women," he said, slightly blushing. And, Captain, I have never once sat in a chair of this beauty. Teach me how to make this chair, and I will never have to go to sea again. I can sleep in my own bed, wake up late, kiss my wife, eat fresh fruit, and never worry about the gale or tempest again, and live a long and peaceful life." The shipwright had no idea what just occurred. He saw the chair, and he thought the chair was a fine chair, but he failed to recognize the extreme quality of it, even though he was a shipwright and accustomed to appreciation of detail. Rommel thought of something. Turning to the Arab, he said, "I don't know your name yet." "I am Wael bin Khalid bin Abdul Latif al-Wagan al-Waster." He pronounced his name as if he were a guest in some royal palace in a faraway land. "But for you, my captain, you must call me Taleb." "Why? What does Taleb mean?" With a genuine smile and warm eyes, the navigator replied, "It means student." Turning to the shipwright, Rommel told him that he would need to add an entire workshop near his cabin, and that he would purchase the needed equipment and supplies personally. Quickly, from within his mind, Rommel told the dimensions of the workshop, and the need for a large port to be built into the ship hull, level with the workshop. "My good captain, that will take time, and the ship is nearly completed." "Make it ready in 1 week, and you shall have another 200 gold pieces," he said flatly. Then, in retrospect, he added, "1 week, and you get 200 gold pieces. Every day before that 1 week, you get another 200 gold pieces." To the other men's amazement, the shipwright's eyes were glassy with tears of an indescribable emotion. He knew generosity, he knew kindness, and he even knew great charity, but he never once knew the essence of a real man, a man who knew what he wanted, and that what he wanted was beautiful. Turning back to the 2 crew members, Rommel said in a calm voice, "When you leave this ship, you will be masters. I swear it upon the Sapphire of Eleonora."